Welcome to BreitWerks. Yes, occasionally we do work on these things. This one's in for just an oil change. 1993 512TR. Kind of awesome. Like, it's a 90s car, but it's the epitome of the 80s. I would love to park this thing right next to my 85 slant nose. 12 cylinders. This thing's got torque on top of torque on top of torque. Kind of awesome. And this one has the aftermarket tube exhaust. Sounds fantastic. So first thing we got to do is loosen up this oil cap so that the oil will flow freely. And yeah, we got her up to operating temperature. So I'm gonna put her up and then we'll take a look underneath. Possibly my most favorite thing about this car is that it actually gets driven, which is very, very cool. So yeah, this is your transmission, right? So they went with the flat 12 cylinder configuration, and then they put the transmission kind of under the car. You got lots and lots of drain plugs here, but when you look in the factory workshop manual, they make it pretty simple. I think this is referred to as C. It's either C or D. So C or D, this guy here. And then way up here in the reservoir, that's the bottom. So this is your oil reservoir. So at the bottom of that, you have, I think it's D. D or C, I'm probably getting those backwards, but that's okay. And then you have this gigantic oil filter that costs more than the damn oil costs to put in the car. So yeah, 1, 2, 3 operations that we'll do underneath here. But very, very awesome. Totally beautiful. And this thing corners as flat as that 360 did. It's amazing. I love this suspension design, the double wishbone. Car just corners so flat. It's amazing. Big brakes. But this one does not quite have the floor of the 360. But I will show you in a little bit these strakes on the side. They're multifunctional. They're bifurcated. They've got all different cooling inlets to do different things. So let me get this guy start draining oil. We've already done the inspection. All the axle boots are good. Everything under here. There's no rubber that looks like it needs attention. So let me get the oil draining and then we'll take a look at that. So I've always been fascinated with the strakes that run down the sides of the Testarossa. And, you know, kind of like the 930 slant nose that I have. That one, all it does is cool the brakes in the rear, right? Nothing fancy. On some of the later cars, they started to put an oil cooler back there. But on the early cars, pre-505s, it's just a brake duct cooler. But if you look at this guy, at the bottom there, you can see that's the radiator. So he's cooling the radiator. Then if you look up at the top, there's a whole separate channel that runs through to the engine air intake, right? So you're grabbing 2 types of air over here on this side. And you can see that from the back. Oh, I should actually have said 3 types of air on the driver's side, because you'll notice that this brake cooling duct also comes in. So you got your radiator, you got your fresh air going into the engine, and you've got your brake cooling duct. So it's doing 3 different things on the driver's side. Over here, it's doing more, right? Yes, you get another radiator, but you also have an oil cooler, you have a brake duct, and if we come out here and we look, way up there at the top, there's a whole separate air intake, and that one's going to the engine again. So on this side, you have 4 different streams of air. So you talk about Ferrari aerodynamics, and they're using this air to do a lot of different stuff, which is really, really cool. Somebody put a lot of time into thinking about that. So when next time you look at a Testarossa, this isn't just for looks. There's 1, 2, 3, and then 4 different inlets that are coming in there. really cool. Probably bore the hell out of you guys and you probably stopped watching the video, but that's one of the things to me about this car. It's not just aesthetically pleasing, but they did it for function, right? The Italians like to do things that look good. Germans like to do things that work good. And this seems to be a mixture of those two. So, yeah, don't worry. I'm not becoming a Ferrari fanboy. But Testarossa, I mean, come on. If you grew up in the 80s, this was the car, right? So cool. Those awesome red valve covers. Yes. This thing's been draining for like 20 minutes, but we're just going to let her sit here. There's no rush. She can do her thing. And that's just the first one. The second one should go a lot quicker. This one's got oil coming down from the heads and everything. Slowly but surely, it makes its way through the oil pump, and then it kind of comes out. So we're just going to let her relax a little bit. Got everything warm, not, you know, hot. It was about, I think I had it around 190 on the coolant side. So the oil's probably a little bit less than that. There's one tiny little weep, but that could either be a weep or it could be from the last time somebody changed the oil filter and they just didn't hit that with some brake clean. So we'll make sure we get that cleaned up. But yeah, look at how many different drain plugs you've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I've probably missed 1 or 2 somewhere. But yeah, very cool. All right, we're gonna keep going. All right, this thing's still dripping. I actually put the drain plug back in and changed the filter and did the oil tank, and then came back and it was like another half quart came out and it's still dripping. So I guess patience is a virtue when it comes to Ferraris. So for my Porsche guys, you wanna see what $250 gets you? 250 bucks for the oil change kit. And that's a filter, cool Ferrari box that the filter comes in, and you get a new drain plug with a gasket. Yeah, that's not oil. That doesn't include oil. So I don't know what that filter, it says triple filtration. It's a UFI filter, but it does have the little horsey on it right there. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe they just don't make enough of them and that's why they have to be so expensive. But we're gonna let her keep dripping and we're gonna finish this up one day. So she finally stopped dripping. You can tell by the sun that it took a minute, but stopped dripping. We put our drain plug back in, torque stripe a little on the filter so we know we did it, and we put a little bit of torque stripe way up there so that we know we torqued that guy. So it's funny that Alpha guys and Ferrari guys, they get like breakout in hives when you talk about torque values. They don't like to torque anything. The Porsche guys, they'll hang you at the stake or burn you at the stake if you don't use it. But we're just going to spray a little bit of Bow Shield to keep this little lady looking as good as she does. It is Florida, so, but just that little bit of Bow Shield to keep this thing looking nice and clean. And we used a couple of cans of brake fluid, but it's a Ferrari, guys. You can use a couple cans of brake fluid. All right, it's time for us to go topside and get that all done. So we got 10.5 quarts in her. Put some fuel system conditioner in. So what we're gonna do now is we are gonna warm her up. While we do that, we'll check our tire pressures, but let's see how she's feeling this morning. Cold start. Oops. Let's see how I'm feeling this morning about getting the key in the ignition. There we go. And there we go. We got oil pressure. Fantastic. Idle's around 1100. Sweet. So that's the coolant temperature. So we'll wait for that to at least get to 195 before we do our check. And we got an oil temperature over there on the bottom right. So she's got half a tank of gas. All right, let me check those tire pressures, and then once we get her on the ground, we'll finish out this video. And with that, she ended up taking 11.25, maybe 11.3. Not quite 11 and a half quarts. Yeah, we had to crack that 12th bottle. Not a bad way to spend the morning. So, very cool car. Absolutely adorable. Alright. Hey, if you haven't had this one on your bucket list, this ought to be on your bucket list. Check us out at BreitWerks.com and have a fantastic